We are currently in Tulum, a small town on the east coast of the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico. Me and Amy have been here for the last 2 weeks, exploring Tulum and the surrounding area. We spent our first week in Tulum Town, the urban heart of Tulum, which we used as a base to explore the best local sites. In this episode, we swap the town for the beach and experience a very different side to Tulum. There's yoga retreats, juice bars, and so many vintage clothing shops. It's already so different to the town. And explore a wildlife hotspot just south of Tulum, Sian Ka'an Biosphere Reserve. But first, we say goodbye to the mainland and catch a ferry to the island paradise of Isla Mujeres. We are currently in Puerto Juarez in Cancun, and we're about to board a boat to Isla Mujeres. The tickets were 300 pesos each, and that includes a return journey whenever we want. So we just arrived at Isla Mujeres, but it's really hot here, so we're going to find somewhere cool indoors and maybe get a drink. I know it's only 11 AM, but it's about 33 degrees out, boiling hot, and I'm on holiday, so I'm having a margarita. We finished our drinks and cooled off, and now we're heading down the island to see the thing that we came here to see, the turtle sanctuary. The general vibe of this island is already very different to Tulum. There are tourists everywhere, and I've already been offered more massages than I've ever been offered in my whole life just walking down this road. Okay, we've arrived. I'm so excited. So the first tank we've got here is the baby turtles, which they breed here to keep them safe from predators and also from poachers. So they'll make sure that they get strong enough so that they can then be released back into the ocean. And they are the cutest things I've ever seen. So in the next tank is the adolescent Loggerhead Turtles, which I think were found injured, so they've been brought in and rehabilitated before they're released back into the wild. And the other breed of turtle they have here is the green turtle, which is, I think, the most common in Mexico. They've also got a couple of albino green turtles. You can see that they do a really important job here, both in protecting the turtles and protecting their numbers, but also in educating the public about the issues with plastic as well. So, as hard as it is seeing turtles in somewhere like this, it's good to know that they're actually doing something positive. So this fenced off area behind me here is where all the turtle nests are. So you can see hundreds and hundreds of these nests that are being covered with these leaves. And then when the turtles hatch, the staff will come round and collect them and then move them into the next room where they'll be looked after until they're strong enough to be released. And just a minute ago, one of the staff came out with a bucket full of baby turtles that just hatched. If it wasn't for places like this, a lot of these baby turtles wouldn't make it to adulthood. They'd be killed by predators or even poached. So as odd as it is to see turtles in tanks, it's actually doing a lot of work to protect the population here.
You want that? So I can pay for it. You can have the big one. Gracias.
We've just arrived at Gran Cenote, which is probably the most popular cenote in the Yucatan Peninsula. We read online that you're meant to come quite early to avoid the crowds, which we decided to completely ignore. If we'd have come a bit earlier, like we'd read online that we were supposed to, yeah, then maybe it would have been a bit quieter. So you're supposed to shower before you get into the cenote. So there are little birds' nests up here, look, you can see. So while I was swimming in the cenote, I managed to cut my foot and we had to get out and come back. This is what I did. If you're squeamish, look away now. So that is what I did. I was in there for literally 5 minutes before I did that, and then we had to come out. We're now back at the Airbnb and it looks like it's about to rain. You can hear the thunder. The next day we were booked onto a tour and stopped off at a cenote near the city of Valladolid. We spent about an hour at the cenote before continuing our tour to one of Mexico's most iconic sites. Today we've come to probably the most popular tourist site here in Mexico. Yes, it's very busy, it's expensive and it's quite out of the way, but you can't come to Mexico and not see Chichen Itza. So Chichen Itza is actually the name of this city, and it was built over 1,000 years ago by the Mayans, and it was eventually discovered when the Spanish invaded and it had been completely overgrown with jungle. In 2007, it was named one of the new 7 wonders of the world, along with Machu Picchu, the Taj Mahal, and the Great Wall of China. The main pyramid is known as the Temple of Kukulkan and has 365 steps, one for each day of the year. So this is the main pyramid here, and at the side of the stairs you can see a snake head, and apparently when the light is exactly right, the side of the pyramid looks like a snake with spines down its back. They constructed this pyramid so that if you clap in this exact spot, the sound reverberates off of all of the steps, and then you hear a bird sound coming back from the top. The sound mimics the call of a bird called the quetzal, which is a sacred animal in Mayan culture. Behind the pyramid is the ball court, where the Mayans used to play this game that they invented. There were 7 players on each team, and the aim of the game was to get the ball through that ring. And at the end of the game, the captain of the winning team was decapitated because only he was worthy of being sacrificed to the gods. On our way back from Chichen Itza, we stopped for lunch at Valladolid, and there was one iconic Mexican street food I had to try. We wanted to experience both sides to Tulum, so today we're moving from the town to the beach. So we just arrived in Tulum Beach, and immediately it's already so different to the town. We're walking down the main high street and there's yoga retreats, juice bars, and so many vintage clothing shops. So it's very different, but it's kind of nice to have a little bit of luxury at the end of the trip. We've just arrived at our accommodation while we're in Tulum Beach. I just wanted to do a quick tour of the place. So over here is the main reception area, and we've got these hammocks, and we've got the hotel cat as well. And we've got this walkway here that leads up to all the rooms. And we've got all these tree houses. We're basically walking right through the middle of the rainforest. And I actually have to duck under the trees to get up here. So this is where we'll be staying for the next few days. We've got our beds here. So this is where we'll be sleeping. We've got a fan, bathroom through there. And this is basically a tree house in the middle of the rainforest. And then outside, we've got our own seating area, have our breakfast with a view of the rainforest, sink, and our own hob so that we can do our own cooking while we're here as well. But definitely the best thing about this accommodation is the view that we're going to wake up to in the morning. This is by far the coolest accommodation that we've ever stayed in. It feels like we're right in the middle of the rainforest, even though we're only about 100 meters away from civilization. Good morning. It is our first morning in the rainforest. Oh, it's so steamy. Today we're heading to the Sian Ka'an Biosphere Reserve, which is one of the biggest protected areas in Mexico. Established in 1986, Sian Ka'an Biosphere Reserve is one of the largest protected areas in Mexico, with over 1 million acres of protected habitat. But it's notoriously hard to get to on your own, so we booked onto a guided tour, which took us about an hour along dusty dirt roads until we reached the edge of the reserve. There we swapped into boats and headed out into the lagoon. Our first stop was to see the nesting site of some of the birds in the reserve. So there were pelicans, there were cormorants, and there were aninga. Next, she took us to a spot in the lagoon where we could see dolphins. We managed to see at least 10, if not more, dolphins that were just swimming around in the lagoon in front of us. And as we were moving on to our next location, we managed to spot a turtle swimming around in the water in front of us. It was bigger than Amy, and as it came out of the water, its head was about the size of a coconut. So that was amazing to see. Then, after we finished the wildlife tour, we jumped into the water and went snorkeling along the Coral Reef. Our guide took us out to the Mesoamerican Reef, a 600-mile stretch of coral reef that runs along the coasts of Mexico, Belize, Guatemala, and Honduras. Also known as the Great Mayan Reef, it's the largest coral reef in the Atlantic Ocean, and the second largest in the world after the Great Barrier Reef. And then finally we were taken to a secluded spot in the lagoon where we could swim around and drink tequila. Tequila and grapefruit. What was it called?
Margarita Express.
After the tour, we returned to our treehouse in Tulum Beach for our final night in the jungle. So we just got back from the Sian Ka'an boat tour, and that was definitely one of the highlights of our trip so far. Even though it's a bit on the pricey side, I would still recommend doing it if you ever get the chance to come here and you can afford it. Good morning. We've got a bit of a free day today. We don't have any activities planned, so we just went for breakfast and now we are heading down to the beach. So this is why you stay in Tulum Beach, to be within walking distance of some of the country's most beautiful beaches. This is the public access beach, which, to be honest, is just as good as any of the private beaches. And at the moment, it's completely empty. So we're just walking up this rock that overlooks the whole beach. Top. And I've got views all along the beach. All the way along there is Playa del Carmen, and then eventually Cancun. And then the other way will lead all the way down to Sian Ka'an, where we were yesterday. It's almost nicer coming to one of the public beaches than the private beaches where you're just surrounded by other tourists like us. So that is the end of our Mexico trip. We've pretty much done everything that we wanted to do while we were here. We saw cenotes, turtles, we visited Chichen Itza and Sian Ka'an. We even saw dolphins as well, which was an added bonus. So we'll definitely be coming back to Mexico at some point in the future to explore the other parts of the country. I really hope you've enjoyed watching these videos. If you have, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye. Yeah.